We're ready for our second question now, and that goes to Officer Schaier again. With the movement for more diversity in a rapidly growing community, should a sheriff voluntarily cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement? Officer Schaier?
Thank you for the question, Lee. So as we mentioned in the first question in regards to upholding what our voters in our community and our state have chosen, we have chosen that we are a sanctuary state. Whether you personally agree with that decision or not, that is the law of the state. That is something very easy for us to understand. I truly believe that it is local law enforcement's responsibility to build partnerships with the entire community. I had the honor and the privilege to begin my law enforcement career working for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And in that time, I had to work with one of the most diverse communities in the entire country. And what I learned in my time there was building bridges and making sure that communities that are traditionally underrepresented or that have documentation differences need to be represented at the exact same level that we would represent any other member of our community. I have seen, sadly, over and over again, communities of undocumented individuals being victimized of crimes because they know, or excuse me, these suspects know that those individuals are scared to report to local law enforcement. As your sheriff, I will ensure that we do absolutely everything to build trust within that community. I do not believe that it's responsible or ethically sound to voluntarily share any information with the people that we have in custody at our jail. With that being said, if there are warrants for people's arrest or we are made aware that there is someone in our community who is a danger, we will absolutely work closely with all of our partners to take that person into custody safely. It is not the job of local law enforcement to cause divide or to call certain individuals out. We must come together and represent every single one in our community the exact same way. And that is exactly what I will do when I'm elected your next sheriff. Thank you.
All right, Officer Schaier, thank you very much. Sheriff Shane Nelson, same question to you, sir. With the movement for more diversity in a rapidly growing community, should a sheriff voluntarily cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement?
We all have to follow the laws. And when you take a look at the situation, our only involvement with immigrations and customs enforcement comes through our jail. That means an individual has to be arrested on probable cause charges, which means more likely than not the crime has been committed, or has a warrant for their arrest. Yes, we do need to contact Immigration and Customs Enforcement and notify them of foreign-born citizens in our jail. It's within the boundaries of the law. It's completely legal to do so. My sole mission and goal is to ensure the public safety of our county and our community that we live in. If we don't communicate with our federal partners and find out information they may have that affects our public safety, I would be falling short of my duty as your sheriff. One example, the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office, communicating with ICE, found out that ICE had a suspect in a child sexual predator case that they were trying to investigate. They were able to transfer custody from ICE to the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office. This is information we don't have unless we communicate with our federal partners. Now, at the same time, we want to build bridges. That's why we have consistent communication with the Latino Community Association. And I've reached out to Central Oregon Black Leaders Assembly, Ricardo Waits, to have those discussions. How can we go about doing our job? How can we interact with these individuals and these community members? Because one thing that we don't want to have happen is we don't want to have people not call 911. That has not been our experience. We have been able to reach out and help them, and then we've even had conversations with the Latino Community Association to say, please, bring people's concerns forward so that we can investigate it and do what's right by those community members.
Sheriff Nelson, thank you very much. Officer Schaier, you have 30 seconds in which to respond, rebut, or add to that point.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So one of the things that my opponent has said is that we have to. I want to make sure it's abundantly clear to our community that we do not have to do this. This is a voluntary decision on my opponent's behalf. We also have due process in this country. If you are arrested on a probable cause arrest, it is not our responsibility to tear you away from your family because of that. And there are national databases that share information with local law enforcement on who's a threat to our community or who potentially needs to be taken into custody for further investigation. Those do already exist, and we will continue working under those parameters.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Sheriff Nelson, 30 seconds.
Yes, it might partially be due to my opponent's lack of experience, and I completely understand that, but not all of that information is available in those national law enforcement databases because some crimes or some investigations of crimes might be ongoing and no information might be shared at the time. And you're right, I do choose to do that as your sheriff, but that's not made in a vacuum. I take into account my teammates' information and our command staff's information as well as the state sheriff's in making those decisions.
Very good, sir. Now the fun and games begin. I'm not going to yak at you and ask more questions. Well, I will later. Right now, you get to ask each other a question, gentlemen. And Officer Schaier, you may now ask a question of Sheriff Shane Nelson.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate that. So, Sheriff Nelson, you operate one of the largest sheriff's office in the entire state of Oregon. You have 240 amazing men and women who are under your control. Of that, you have 42 deputies who hold a supervisory position within your agency. With those 42 supervisors, you have 0 females in any supervisory position. Can you please explain to us that with 240 members and 42 supervisors, no females represent your command staff or any supervisory staff when it comes to your sworn ranks?
That is one of the things that we're working hard to do. We've been able to add 9 female deputy sheriffs in patrol while I've been sheriff. I'm supported by retired Captain Jeanette Cleaves from the Bend Police Department and retired Captain Ruth Jenkin from our own office, the jail commander. So I think it's important to note that anytime you want to help individuals flourish in your organization, you've got to start somewhere. So by adding more female representation into our patrol deputy sheriff ranks, giving them the training, experience, and tools they need, that's where you start so that you can bring folks up through the supervisory ranks.
Very good, sir. Officer Schaier, you have 30 seconds now in which to respond to his response.
Thank you. I mentioned it in my opening statement. The Sheriff's Office currently has 10 times the amount of employee grievances filed against their organization, most of them for toxic work environment or hostile work environment and harassment claims. I am saddened to hear that there still are no females represented in any supervisory capacity when it comes to the sworn staff, and that is something that I will address when I'm elected your next sheriff, because men and women can equally serve, sometimes women even better, in our profession, and they need to be represented in supervisory positions.
All right, very, very well spoken, both of you gentlemen. We're going to continue now. Sheriff
I
Nelson.
need to respond to that, Lee.
Sorry, we have a
30-second
rebuttal.
response?
We have a rebuttal to a rebuttal, so we're fine. Sir, you can put that in your closing statements if you'd like.
Thank you.
But right now, Sheriff Nelson, is your turn to ask Officer Schaier a question.
All right. Mr. Schaier, you have touted that leadership isn't a resume, and I can understand why you say that because it's important to be able to share your experiences in your resume. But you've touted that, sir, and one of the things that I'm going to do, which I did the last time, is release my entire Sheriff's Office personnel file on my campaign Facebook page tomorrow or Wednesday. Hope you'll do the same from Las Vegas and the Bend Police Department to include discipline and commendations. So my question to you is, can you please spell out your law enforcement supervisory experience and include community volunteerism or community involvement while you've been here in Central Oregon?
Yes, thank you for the question. My opponent mentions that he's going to release his entire personnel record. Interestingly enough, he actually did that last night on his campaign Facebook page. He released a Google Drive document that had that entire thing listed when he mentioned he was 100% transparent. For reasons unknown, that has now since been taken down from his Facebook page, and I'm hoping that it gets reappeared. I am absolutely honored for my experience that I've had in law enforcement. I have been able to serve for 2 of the most progressive and respected agencies in the entire United States. Beginning my career with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, I served on that agency as a training officer. I was on the crisis intervention team, and I also served as a gang response officer. What I learned in my time working for Las Vegas, one of the most diverse communities in America, was how to treat each individual with respect and how to approach every incident with empathy and compassion. I then had the opportunity, my wife and I decided we wanted to raise a family here in Central Oregon. And in 2013, we made the move, and I've had the honor of working for the City of Bend Police Department. In my time working for the City of Bend, I've served as a field training officer. I've served as a department-wide instructor. I've served on our Central Oregon Emergency Response Team. I now serve in the capacity as a school resource officer to help youths in our community form stronger bonds with law enforcement and to make them a better citizen when they ultimately leave school. And I've also continued my service as a crisis intervention team officer. I also am extremely proud of my private sector experience, where I had the opportunity of managing large budgets as well as personnel issues, both hiring, firing, discipline, and everything that comes in between that. I am excited because I understand that leadership is leading by example and taking care of the person to your left and taking the care of the person to your right. And when I'm elected your next sheriff, I will make sure that I approach our entire community with compassion and empathy.
All right,
Thank
very
you.
good, sir. Now, Sheriff Nelson, you have 30 seconds in which to rebut.
Thank you, Lee. Hey, real quick, my wife is a police officer, and she is my greatest mentor, and so I have tremendous respect for her. And for reasons unknown, I forgot to remove 2 sheets from my P file and redact the information off of them. So I will do that because I'm totally transparent and put those back on there. The other thing I want to mention, as far as my opponent saying needing empathy and compassion, that's something he knows a lot about because the city of Bend paid $800,000 for that issue. He didn't touch on any supervisory experience, though, and that is a challenge.
All right, sir, thank you very much. That was your 30-second rebuttal time.